Eruption. Thick ash leaving hundreds of thousands of travelers stranded at an airport. The massive rush to escape this inferno.
Plus, a battle over paintings with the Pentagon. The New York City College trying to profit off art made by terrorists.
And the clock is ticking. A jam-packed schedule for President Trump as he sets his sights on the biggest revamp of the U.S. tax system in decades. Can Congress get this done before Christmas is the big question. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
Beautiful Monday. Everyone still full from their Thanksgiving feast? Maybe the leftovers that you had all weekend long? Well, guess what? It's time to wake up and get your week started. Good morning. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Monday. I'm Jillian Neely.
Got to go back to work.
Yep.
It's no fun. It's the way it is. I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for waking up early with us today. And to our top story now, President Trump getting back to work as well, working on tax reform this week with the Republican and the administration's self-imposed year-end deadline fast approaching.
But Democrats now threatening to stop the bill right in its tracks. Griff Jenkins joins us live from Washington, D.C. with what we can expect this week. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Jillian and Rob, good morning. It's crunch time. Only 12 days left on the legislative calendar, and the laundry list is long. Tax reform at the top, as well as a spending bill deadline next week. Immigration funding for the border wall and children's health care also on the list. The president tweeting this as members return to D.C. He says back in D.C., big week for tax cuts and many other great things of importance to the country. Senate Republicans will hopefully come through for all of us. The tax cut bill is getting better and better. The end result will be great for all. But at least 6 senators are on the fence for a variety of reasons, ranging from increasing the debt to repealing the individual mandate to unfairly favoring corporations over small businesses. GOP conference chairman Senator John Thune predicts they will get there.
We have members who are expressing what are legitimate concerns, who have ideas about how to make the bill stronger and better, and we're certainly open to those, and we're going to have an open process on the floor of the United States Senate where people can offer amendments. Those amendments can get debated and voted upon.
Now, funding for the government runs out on December 8th, so Congress must pass something to avoid a government shutdown as Democrats hold out for a fix on that DACA program, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, something Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says he's open to.
I think most Americans want to give these DREAM Act kids a more certain life. So let's do it in December. Let's do it for the good of the country. Let's take care of a lot of problems at one time to show the country we actually can function.
So funding for the border wall, as well as a few other odds and ends like children's health care. A lot to do this week. Congress's first vote will be later this afternoon. We'll see what happens. Maybe a vote by the end of the week on tax reform, guys.
All right, Griff Jenkins keeps posted. Thank you.
All right, a Fox News alert now, and law enforcement across the country on high alert this holiday season as terrorists look to target U.S. trains. The TSA warning about attacks similar to the 2012 plot to derail a New York-bound train. An undercover FBI agent foiled that al-Qaeda plan after the would-be terrorists were caught scoping out train tracks in the Northeast. Security, a major concern with more than 140,000 miles of rail from coast to coast. Al-Qaeda even publishing detailed instructions for how to derail trains in their propaganda magazine.
A massive volcano on the brink of erupting right now, threatening the lives of thousands. Indonesian officials raising the alert to the highest level, ordering the evacuation of 100,000 people from the popular tourist island of Bali. Rising ash from Mount Agung shutting down the airport and stranding 60,000 tourists. That volcano last erupting in 1963, killing more than 1,000 people.
All right, the nation of Egypt vowing to fight back after a terror attack at a mosque left more than 300 people dead.
President Trump offering the United States full support in the fight against ISIS. Amy Kellogg is live in Milan with the latest. Good morning, Amy.
Hi, Jillian and Rob. Well, the problem is that there is no easy solution to cracking down on terrorism in the Sinai. There has been a lot of criticism of the Egyptian president's heavy-handed way. Some have referred to it as a scorched earth policy, but he has a really serious problem down there in Sinai on his hands. There's been a real spike in radicalism since 2013 when he came to power in a military coup and after the collapse of the government in Libya. guns just started flowing into Egypt. There's always been a problem with a certain amount of lawlessness down in Sinai, known for its smuggling, and now we are just seeing a real cycle of violence and retribution from which there doesn't seem to be an easy escape. Now, whereas Christians and police have been the primary targets for terrorists down there, this time they hit a mosque, killing 305 Muslims, 27 Muslim children. The victims were mostly Sufi, and for that, they were targeted because ISIS considers they are not real Muslims. Sufis are mystical, peaceful people, and they were gunned down as they tried to escape the mayhem caused by 30 terrorists armed to the teeth and hungry for the blood of as many worshippers as they could cut down. No group has claimed responsibility yet for the attack, but the Egyptian police have said that they found at least one ISIS flag in the vehicles used by the attackers. There have been some airstrikes on those vehicles and apparently some cleanups in some of the areas where they're believed to have come from. It was the biggest terrorist attack in modern Egyptian history, followed by the one in 2015, as you may recall, when terrorists affiliated with ISIS shot down a plane full of Russian tourists traveling from Sinai back to Russia, killing all 224 people on board. Rob and Jillian.
Just another horrific attack on innocent people. All right, thank you, Amy. All right, President Trump doubling down, urging Alabama voters to pick Republican Senate candidate Roy Moore instead of Democrat Doug Jones. The president slamming liberal Jones in a tweet, writing, "The last thing we need in Alabama and the U.S. Senate is a Schumer-Pelosi puppet who is weak on crime, weak on the border, bad for our military and our great vets, bad for our Second Amendment, and wants to raise taxes to the sky. Jones would be a disaster." The latest poll numbers have Moore slightly ahead of Jones at this point. Moore has been accused of inappropriate contact with minors. Nearly 4 decades ago, this allegedly happened, allegations that he denies. Alabama's special election is scheduled for December 12th, just a couple weeks away. Senator Al Franken vowing to return to work this morning. The Minnesota Democrat breaking his silence, saying he will not bow out over his own sexual misconduct allegations.
Have you talked about seriously resigning? Have you considered that?
No. The Ethics Committee is looking into all this, and I will cooperate fully with it. But listen, I know I have a lot of work to do to regain the trust of people I've let down.
Franken, who says he's ashamed, is accused of groping several women, going on to call himself a champion and ally of women in that interview.
NFL protests showing no signs of slowing down. Roughly 24 players choosing to sit, kneel, or raise a fist during the national anthem Sunday. Among them, Oakland Raiders running back Marshawn Lynch. This after President Trump called him out in a tweet for standing during the Mexican national anthem in Mexico City while sitting for our national anthem. Fewer fans, though, also showing up to watch those protests. Take a look. You can see pictures of empty seats at stadiums across the country, once again making those rounds on social media. Holiday decorations will be unveiled today at the White House, marking President Trump's first Christmas in office. The First Lady teasing some of this year's decor on social media. Decorations will include the annual nativity scene, and on Thursday, the first family will participate in the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony. The Capitol also getting in the holiday spirit. Their 79-foot Christmas tree arriving overnight at Joint Base Andrews.
All right, let's check the weather now. Janice is back. That's the good news. And she got a nice Arizona suntan, too.
Oh, yes.
Did I really?
I don't know,
think this
maybe.
is fake stuff. You had a good Thanksgiving. Now, listen, Rob, if you go to Rob's Instagram, he posted pictures of his Thanksgiving. So next year you come to the Dean residence, okay,
Is
my
that where I'm
friend?
going next
You
year?
poor thing. You had South Park on the television and a can of beer on the. Anyway.
Now, that was actually a glass of water and a pizza. I
You
swear.
come to my house next year, okay, my
Okay.
friend?
I'll be there.
Lots of fun. Here are current temperatures across the Great Lakes and the Northeast right now. 39 in New York City. You know what? That really cold air is still up in Canada, and it's going to remain up in Canada for the next week or so. Now, the next 10 days, we could see some of that really cold air moving southward, but for now, not too bad in terms of temperatures. We are looking at the potential for more wintry weather across the west and a little bit of snow, just a little bit across upstate New York and New England. And then our next big system that moves into the west coast, that's going to bring some heavy rain and some mountain snow for those skiers. And again, that system is going to move eastward.
President Trump has now arrived back in Washington. He'll be meeting with Senate Republicans Tuesday.
He just tweeted that this is a big week coming up for tax cuts.
Well, I do believe in prayer, number one, and I hope that we get it done by Christmas.
Conyers announced he was stepping down as the top Democrat on the powerful House Judiciary Committee.
John Conyers is an icon in our country. He will do the right thing.
I'm someone who hugs people. I've learned I've crossed the line for some women.
Fox News alert: law enforcement across the country on high alert this holiday season as terrorists look to target U.S. trains.
Prince Harry officially off the market after months of speculation. The royal family announcing Harry is engaged to the Suits actress and an American, Meghan Markle.
Roughly 24 players choosing to sit, kneel, or raise a fist during the national anthem on Sunday.
Big show after Thanksgiving. Welcome back to Studio F. Fox
Good morning. It is Cyber Monday. You can do your shopping online today and save a lot of money.
Right, and we're going to have a whole emphasis on that. That's the only way we woke Kurt the Cyber Guy, just for that reason.
That's exactly right. Brian's buying our Christmas gifts during the commercials.
Right, absolutely. No, I prefer to shop in person. I prefer to feel things.
Well, to get the discount, you can't shop in person today.
You know that's right, because it's cyber. But you know what the most fun store is in any mall? As seen on TV. Because it's almost like seeing a celebrity. It's like, I remember you from the television commercial.
Wait a minute, is that really a store in your mall?
Oh, yeah. You don't have that?
Yeah. We have Bed Bath & Beyond, and that's like basically everything around the register.
Right. And that reminds me of a movie.
Who knew there was a whole store all about My Pillow? Anyway, we got a busy 3 hours. You will see some of the images from our Thanksgiving, and we hope you had a great one as well.
We're developing them right now. We went to Kodak. We went to the drive-thru.
Photomat?
Photomat.
You're still doing that?
Yeah,
huh?
I put in the special water.
You know, this is called a smartphone. It also acts as a camera.
It's a phase. It's a phase.
Yeah.
It's only for smart people, though. It's a smartphone.
Thank you very much for joining us on this Monday. Let's start with a Fox News alert. And get this, a high-ranking official now suing the president, a federal official, over his choice to lead the nation's consumer financial watchdog agency.
She wants to block the White House and let a judge decide who will take over the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
All right, Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with the details. He loves lawsuits. Hey, Griff.
Good morning, guys. It's unclear who's getting the top parking spot at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau this morning. President Trump's pick to run the agency, White House Budget Director Mick Mulvaney, or will it be Obama holdover and current Deputy Director Leandra English? The lawsuit filed by English to block Mulvaney's appointment will determine who is going to step in. This all started when Obama's director, Richard Cordray, resigned Friday, tapping his deputy, English, on the way out the door as President Trump sought to reform an agency that he believes has become too political. But Democrats view it differently. Here's Dick Durbin.
It's a watchdog agency. Wall Street hates it like the devil hates holy water, and they're trying to put an end to it with Mr. Mulvaney stepping into Cordray's spot.
The CFPB is an agency created by Elizabeth Warren before she was a senator and enacted under Dodd-Frank in 2010 in response to the financial collapse. Here's what the legislative director for the White House, Mark Short, has to say about it.
We're not supposed to be creating agencies that are not accountable to the American people, and that's what we've done with CFPB. Mick Mulvaney will do a good job of making sure that it is accountable both to consumers, but also allowing free markets to work so we're no longer killing jobs in our country.
All right, so English argues that wording in Dodd-Frank supports her claim that she should be the acting director, but the administration argues that the Federal Vacancies Reform Act gives President Trump authority to name Mick Mulvaney as the director. We are hearing reports from Reuters that the general counsel at CFPB is siding with President Trump. We don't have that hard on Fox News, but it is going to play out, and it is indeed a fight between the administration and what many think of as the swamp.
But Griff, here's the whole thing. It's all about the acting. If the president, when the president names somebody, that doesn't, this thing's going to just go up in smoke anyway, right? The president just go ahead and name somebody.
What's going to have to happen is whoever, this is for the acting one, the Senate will have to confirm a permanent director. That may be Mulvaney or someone else. We'll find out from President Trump. It's worth pointing out, by the way, guys, Richard Cordray, the only person that's ever been appointed to this agency, was done in recess appointment by President Obama because he couldn't get it done and confirmed by the Senate back then.
Good point, Griff. Thank you very much. The other thing is, and Griff in his report said that Elizabeth Warren helped create that agency, and then she wanted to run it, but President Obama didn't want her to run it. Wound up
you would think if it's a government agency and the president wants to appoint just an interim director, he would have trump the agent, the person that just left the position.
Have you set up your things to do list today and for the entire week?
Yes, I'm sending a note to Harry. Prince Harry, by the way, got engaged to Meghan Markle.
Wow, this is a big surprise.
It was in the cold open.
Wow, I didn't know.
Are you disappointed? Did you like seeing him like floundering around and reading all the fun stories?
He's the only royal person I really feel I know. I actually feel like I can relate to him, yeah.
We have more on that in headlines, but she is an American. He's marrying an American.
Yeah, right. An actress. Americans are cool people. I've met some. Monday is today, and the president will have lunch with the Senate Finance Committee to talk about tax reform. And on Tuesday, the president goes to Capitol Hill to invite himself to the Senate Republican lunch, all to talk about, most of all, tax reform. He is, if you look at his tweets, he's pumped up for the Senate to take this up.
That's because the Republicans need a legislative victory. They haven't had one this year. They need this before Christmas.
So the president in the last couple of hours tweeted this out. Back in D.C., big week for tax cuts and many other things of great importance to our country. Senate Republicans will hopefully come through for all of us. The tax cut bill is getting better and better. The big end result will be great for all of us. Here's the thing. So he's going to be meeting with the big four up on Capitol Hill, Nancy and Mitch and the others, and Schumer and Paul, and some others as well, because what they're trying to do, in addition to the tax thing, is there's a showdown over federal funding, because they need the money to run the government. They'll probably do another patch. Essentially, it runs out of money on December the 8th.
Which is about a week from now.
Right. And so what the Democrats are trying to do is they're saying, if you want us to vote on that, you're going to have to attach the Dreamer stuff to it. The Republicans say absolutely not. So it could be logger jams.
Right. They would attach the Dreamer thing, and I saw Senator Thune over the weekend said no. But you know who might say yes? The president. Because the president before met with Chuck and Nancy and said, I want to get this done. Let's wait 3 months, knowing that this day would be coming right before Christmas.
I'm not sure the majority of Republicans would be against it. I mean, these are dreamers. These are kids that came over because of their parents. They had nothing to do with it. So then just to send them back without having any residency in their countries that their parents came from would be really difficult.
Well, Mark Meadows, who heads up the House Freedom Coalition caucus, said DACA will not be in the government funding bill. The president gave Congress until March to do something, and so if they do it as standalone legislation, that would be fine with him. But then again, if they do it this way, we just know that the House Freedom Caucus completely against it.
And there could be a government shutdown because there aren't enough Republicans that can agree on other things within the budget.
They need to get some Democrats on board, and generally they have, because so many of the Republicans don't want to increase the deficit. So they have to get some Democrats. It's kind of a mess.
And they can't agree on funding for our troops or funding.
Did you see
they want more and more?
that shot at the beginning where people were throwing their helmets at each other from the NFL yesterday?
Yes.
It's kind of like that.
Right, a little bit. And Democrats bail out, and they say, we're not going to bail you out this time, Republicans, if you don't include DACA there. So we'll see what happens when the four sit down. Overwhelmingly, when you ask the American people what they want to see Republicans and Democrats come together on something. This might be a good place to start right before Christmas. Meanwhile, when you talk about Ainsley and Steve, you think Hollywood. And you love talking about actors and actresses, and this is right up your alley.
No, we like talking about Prince Harry, who you admire greatly, apparently.
I do.
You can't even look at us when you say that. You see, you said it, you looked away.
No, I just know you love Hollywood, and when Susan Sarandon speaks, you listen.
Well, Susan Sarandon lives in New York, but she does do a lot of movies in Hollywood. She was, during the last election, she was such a supporter of Bernie Sanders, and she did not like how Hillary Clinton was treating Bernie Sanders. She did a very eye-opening interview with The Guardian where essentially she said, you know what, if she was president, It would be a dangerous situation.
This is what she said. I did think she was very, very dangerous. We would still be fracking. We would be at war if she were president. It wouldn't be much smoother. Look what happened under Obama that we didn't notice.
Right. So, President Trump, don't say to yourself, I need Susan Sarandon in my camp. I think she wants to go even more left than Hillary Clinton would have been. So she came out. It was this first story in Drudge most of the day.
That's right.
She said back in June, she said her foreign policy made her a greater national security risk. I guess she meant greater than Trump. But then when the reporter of The Guardian asked her about that, she said, not exactly, but I don't mind that quote.
Right. And just before the DNC last year, she came out and said, you know, the DNC is completely corrupt.
Yeah,
and as it turns out, she was right.
They are.
And by none other than Donna Brazile basically says that in her book.
All right, it is 6:10 in New York City, and Jillian joins us with some news from across the pond.
That's right, breaking news, Brian's favorite story of the morning. Good morning. Let's start with this Fox News alert. Prince Harry is off the market after months of speculation. The royal family announcing Harry is engaged to Suits actress and American Meghan Markle. The wedding set to take place in the spring of 2018. The pair have been dating for 17 months. 33-year-old Prince Harry is fifth in line for the throne. A Fox News alert, a massive volcano on the brink of erupting. Indonesian officials raising the alert to the highest level, ordering the evacuation of 100,000 people from the popular tourist island of Bali. Rising ash from Mount Ugang shutting down the airport and stranding 60,000 tourists. The volcano last erupted in 1963, killing more than 1,000 people. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi coming to John Conyers' defense. The California Democrat even putting Conyers on a pedestal, saying as he stepped down from the House Judiciary Committee over sexual misconduct allegations.
We are strengthened by due process. Just because someone is accused, and was it one accusation? Is it two? I think there has to be. John Conyers is an icon in our country. He has done a great deal to protect women.
The congressman who is under investigation by the Ethics Committee is accused of using taxpayer dollars to settle sexual misconduct lawsuits. Meantime, Conyers' Democratic colleague, Senator Al Franken, says he will be back at work this morning and will not resign over the allegations against him. Franken, who is accused of groping several women, calls himself a champion and ally of women. In just a few hours, we will get our first glimpse of the White House decorated for the holidays. First Lady Melania Trump welcoming children and students from Joint Base Andrews to see the nearly 20-foot Christmas tree, nativity scene, and a gingerbread replica of the White House. The Capitol Christmas tree also set to arrive later this morning. The 79-foot tall Engelmann spruce left the Kootenai National Forest in Montana 2 weeks ago. It's cool. I love seeing this stuff.
That's a big tree.
They're so big. It takes them such a long time to get there and get it all packed up and then unpacked.
Did any of y'all put your trees up this weekend?
Yeah.
No. It's in the hall.
It is?
Yeah.
I did it yesterday.
All right.
You did real tree?
2 of them.
Jillian, thank you.
This year I did not do the real tree.
What?
Sorry, Mom. I know. Let us know what you think. This year I just did not feel like dealing with all the pine needles. So I bought a bunch of those things that make it smell good, and I have a lot of candles that are the Fraser fir candles.
We have one of each, a live one and a fake one.
All right.
Live tree or fake tree? Tell me what you're doing this year.
The live trees are always better, but the fake tree is...
Are you taking the easy way out like Ainsley, or are you doing it like Steve?
I got it on sale at Home Depot, and it was already lit.
I love that.
Yeah, but what is that? You don't want to put any effort in.
That's okay.
I put a lot of effort in. I'll show you the pictures.
Okay.
All right. Let us know about that. Meanwhile, a Fox News alert. We've got another one. 2 chilling new terror threats targeting trains and Christmas markets. Congressman Mike Gallagher served 2 tours in Iraq, and he is here to talk about keeping our homeland safe. Good morning, Mike. You're next.
All right, we got the Fox News alert now. You have new terror threats this holiday season. Yes, we're in the middle of it. Terrorists now calling for attacks on our rail system, and ISIS fanatics threatening to target Christmas markets. So what are we going to do to combat this ideology and keep Americans safe? Because, again, they telegraph it, and oftentimes they do it. Congressman Mike Gallagher served 2 terms in Iraq. He's a Marine and a commander of intelligence teams where you're on armed services as well as Homeland Security in the House. So, Congressman, you hear about the going after rails. These aren't hollow threats. They say they're going to start using vehicle attacks. They started with Nice and haven't stopped. So what do you do?
Yeah, I think, well, that's an important point. When you saw in the months leading up to Nice, Berlin, at a crowded Christmas market, and even in New York, was ISIS advertising in its online magazine, Dabiq, with pictures of vehicles saying, mow down the infidels and the crusaders. So the first thing we have to do is take this threat very seriously. But I also think, so that magazine's name has since changed from Dabiq, which refers to a city in Syria, to Rumiyah, which refers to Rome. That itself illustrates the problem we face, which is to say, as we squeeze ISIS in Iraq and Syria, we're going to see it pop up in other places. We had an attack in Egypt last week. ISIS has an affiliate there.
As brutal as you can imagine.
Exactly.
300 plus dead, 27 children.
Exactly. But particularly, this is the largest mobilization of foreign fighters in human history. So as these foreign fighters return to their home countries in Western Europe, we're going to be dealing with this. And towards that end, I chair a task force on denying terrorist entry in the United States as part of the Homeland Security Committee. And we've looked at all the pathways through which terrorists could get into this country. But the most difficult thing to confront is the reality that terrorists cross our borders thousands of times every day digitally. Right. And that capacity to inspire an attack is a very difficult problem to get at.
And you know how much New York means to them. And you know how they reveled in the bike path killer.
Exactly.
And knowing that you have Penn Station, Grand Central Station, and New York City as a mecca, what does that make you feel? And how does the interaction between our counterterror unit in the New York City, the FBI, and Homeland Security?
Well, I think New York deserves a lot of credit, really developing NYPD and a lot of affiliated agencies developing a world-class counterterrorism
But do they
capability.
communicate well to the feds?
Well, I think there's always room for improvement. I think the most important thing for us to do in the short term is to stay on offense in the Middle East, because the longer we allow groups like ISIS to gain and maintain territory, the longer they grow in the hearts and minds of disaffected young Muslims around the world. So we cannot let off on that pressure. But at the same time, we need to take a hard look at our own capabilities, particularly our intelligence authorities, some of which are critical and about to expire, that we need to reauthorize in Congress, but also that cooperation between local law enforcement and federal law enforcement. But in every case, we have this narrative of a lone wolf attack. But what we've seen in all these cases is often it's not a lone wolf. These are people that were on the system and had popped up onto the radar for whatever reason, but they fell off because law enforcement didn't want to continue the investigation, or because people in the local Muslim community did not want to report their activity. So we need to have that trust between the local community and law enforcement, and that in many ways is the best line of defense. And I would just say, as a military guy, people every day thank me for my service, but the law enforcement folks are on the front lines every single day doing a dangerous job.
And a job in which they're under constant scrutiny for, but now they're asked to be on the tip of the spear, which is unbelievable. And you saw that in New York City last week, and we've seen it before. Congressman Mike Gallagher, glad you're on the job for us.
Thank you.
Instead of face paint, you're wearing a nice suit. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.